There you go. We're recording now. So this should be hopefully not too long. It's not, oopsies. It's not a very long, people are coming in, sorry. It's not a very long workshop, but it is a lot of information condensed. So hopefully it'll take not more than an hour. I really think it'll take way less than that. And feel free to ask questions in the chat window, and Sam or Anne will answer them if they can, and then if not, we'll get to them at the end. And yeah, that's it. So as always, remember, a little reminder for everybody to follow the Our Ladies Code of Conduct. Our Ladies is dedicated to providing a harassment-free experience for everyone, and we do not tolerate harassment of participants in any form. So we actually have a lot of first-time people in joining Our Ladies today, so we fully encourage everybody that hasn't already to read the full version of our Code of Conduct, and it's in that second link next to the book icon. And we will be sharing these slides, so you'll have that link later to refer to. And we really want to ensure that this is a friendly environment and everyone feels safe and welcome. Oops. There you go. So tables, we're going to make a table today. There are a lot of packages out there in R that will enable you to make tables. And in the survey that 21 of you filled out, it seems like most of the table packages that everybody here uses is Cable, Cable Extra, DT, Data Table, and it's not on there, Formatable. And some of you actually already use GT. So if I'm talking and saying something and you guys want to add to it, please feel free to in the chat window. I'm always down for more info. I actually learned how to use this package to teach this workshop to you guys. So I spent all weekend learning how to do it. And so if I can learn how to do it, you guys can learn how to do it. Sweet. So what I really like so far about it is that it's actually really easy to use and simple to make really beautiful tables. It's really easy to modify. I use dplyr and ggplot a lot in my workflow, and a lot of you guys said that you also do that. And the syntax and the way that this language flows in this package is very similar to that. So it'll feel similar, and it'll be pretty easy for you guys to pick up. GT actually stands for Grammar of Tables, the same way that ggplot, the GG in that stands for Grammar of Graphics. It was made by the same people, so it has a very similar feel to it. And that's why it's easy to pick up if you're used to that package too. So here's going to be a couple of examples using GT. I definitely should have crowdsourced the table contest that's going on right now, but I didn't. These are some older tables that I have liked on Twitter a couple weeks ago. And so I'm just going to show you what some other people have made using this package that we're going to learn today. And so this one is just a table of the top 250 shows rated by IMDb users. You can see you can put a lot of stuff into these tables, and it's still pretty clean and organized. You can add other plots within each line of your table, which is really cool. Color code, add pictures and icons and things like that. It's pretty fun. Or you can go the simple route. So this guy, Malcolm Barrett, was trying to recreate a New York Times style table that he saw of EU COVID infections and deaths, with an emphasis on Switzerland. So you can see it's pretty streamlined, and I think it's really pretty. And then also Giorgio Karmanis, he's one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter. He posts really pretty figures and visualizations all the time. And if you guys have been following our ladies group, you know that we love visualizations. And so these are two that he made using Tidy Tuesday data. And if you guys aren't familiar what Tidy Tuesday is, it happens every week, and the moderator and organizer of that group will wrangle or crowdsource wrangled tidy data for everybody to use so that you can practice and learn new things on data that's already ready to go. And so like the one on the left here, this was data about Beyonce and Taylor Swift albums. And the one on the right was about Himalayan explorations and climbs. And you can see you can do a lot of stuff with these this package. And so all these tables might seem a little bit complicated, but I promise that you guys can all do it. and they all have the same components of it, right? So this is a diagram of all the different parts of the GT table. You guys will have these slides to refer to again later, and then this table or picture diagram is also on the info page, our studio info page for the GT package, which is where I got it from. And it's a really nice reference if you want to, let's say, I want to edit like a caption or something, you can go to this and you can see that it's actually called a table footer. And so it's easier to find what function you need to use in order to change that. And this won't really be very helpful right now, but it'll also, again, be a good reference. It's a shortened version of most of the functions that are available with a little bit of a quick little description of what everything does. So you can see you can do a lot of things with it. One of you guys responded that you make tables a lot in Shiny, and I looked it up and you can see it there in the yellow on the right-hand column. You can actually render your GT tables to Shiny. So you'll be able to use everything you learn to make tables in your Shiny apps as well, which is really exciting. All right, so let's learn to code, unless anybody has any questions before I move on to coding.
There's a question in the chat about where the slides will be. We can send out a follow-up email to all of the participants, and the link to the slides will also be in our GitHub page.
Thanks, Anne. Okay. All right, so welcome to our RStudio environment. I think I'm the only one that uses this color. I have yet to see anybody use it, but it's very exciting. So today we are going to be making one table. We're going to go line by line to add and edit the table so you can see what small changes you can make at a time. And for the data that we're going to be using, so you might know we're going to be using data on pies. And so I really wanted to get like some Thanksgiving related data. And so I was actually looking through Tidy Tuesday's old data that they had during this time. And I found a Thanksgiving dinner survey that was posted during the holiday season. And the Tidy Tuesday moderator had actually called attention to the fact that this time right now is Transgender Day of Remembrance. And I didn't really know what this was. I had to do some self-educating on this because I didn't really know what it entailed. And so I wanted to share a little bit of what I've learned with you guys before we move on, because I thought it was pretty important. And so Transgender Day of Remembrance, or TDOR, started in 1999 as a vigil to honor Rita Hester, and it's taken place every year since then on November 20th, so that's this Friday. And the entire week prior to this day, people and organizations across the world work to increase visibility of transgender people and address issues that this community faces. This year, due to COVID, the organization Reading Pride Celebration, they're actually going to be hosting a virtual vigil. So if anybody wants to join that, just Google it. And they're going to be honoring the 36 transgender people that have been killed in the US this year alone. And I highly encourage everybody else that wants to learn more about these issues, especially in honor of this Awareness Week. I did find a few resources that were really helpful for me, and I will also share them with you in the follow-up email. So if anybody wants to talk about that more after, we can certainly do that after the workshop. Cool. All right, so pie data. So what I did was grab the Thanksgiving Day dinner survey and only subsetted the data about pies, and then I asked the same questions to you guys. So half the data is a survey of 2,000 something people across the US, and the other half is going to be like a 20 or so answer survey from you guys. Surprisingly very similar breakdown of pies. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to want to do is add in our libraries, right? So we are going to want library, the Tidyverse, and we are also going to want here, and we are going to want GT. And then we also want to read in our data. So I'm going to call this Thanksgiving pie, but you guys can call it whatever you want. Might just be easier if you do the same thing as me, but you can go crazy. And you got to read in your data the way that it works for you. I use here because it's easier for me. I do a lot of collaboration, so it's easier to share code that way. But as long as you can read it in, it'll be good. So this is what it looks like. The flavor column is the flavor of all the pies. Anything that had less than 5 responses for the national survey, I grouped in the other category. And then I asked you guys the same questions. And so the survey counts and the survey percent columns are the national survey data. And then the Our Lady counts and the R percent are our data, our data. And I do want to do a little shout out. A couple of you guys have pies that went into the other category that wasn't in this list. We got Peruvian pies, strawberry rhubarb, and pear, which all sound super good. So I'm really sorry if you guys are sad that your respective pie flavor is not showing. All right. So then we're just going to do it. We're going to make a table. It's super simple. All you have to do is this one call, GT parentheses function, and there you go. You got a table. If this is all you want, you're done. Simple. But we do want to make ours look a little bit prettier. So the first thing that I always do when I make any sort of figure is I add a title and a subtitle. And this is going to be really easy to do. And if you guys remember in this, the title and the subtitle go under the name table header, which is basically what the function is called. So I need a table or tab header. And then I'm going to call this, what pies do we eat for Thanksgiving? Just go for it. There you go, right there, super easy. If you want to do a subtitle, you just do it directly under it. And I definitely shamelessly Googled pie puns. And this was the least cheesy or aggressive one. And if you guys have a better one, drop it in the chat window and I will use that one instead. But I'm always down for pie puns. Oh, there you go, super easy. And one thing that I actually really like about this package is that you can bold or italicize directly your title and subtitle. All you have to do is let GT know that you're using Markdown syntax. So if you guys are familiar with Markdowns, which is what I'm working in right now, you can use a single asterisk between whatever phrase or word you want to indicate that you want it to be italicized, or you can use a double to indicate that you want it to be bold. So let's try it out. You got to put your title within this MD or Markdown, and we're gonna bold, let's just bold Thanksgiving. Why not? And let's try to italicize the entire thing so you can see that you can do the whole thing or just one part of it. Ever floats your boat. There you go. Yeah, there, super easy. And super handy. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do now that we've got the title and the subtitle down is we're gonna want to add a caption. So in the component diagram thing, as I mentioned before, it was a footer. And so, the footer, and it was also a source notes was what they were called. So we're gonna do a source note first. So it's gonna be table source note. You're gonna wanna specify that you're saying I want the source note to be, and then you can do whatever you want it to be. So I'm just gonna say source and then 30, 80, yeah, 35, 30, 80, I can't say. Survey, and the survey is actually from 2015. I don't know if I told you guys that. Oh, I forgot a pipe. There we go. And if we scroll down, here you can see it is down at the bottom here as a caption. But this refers to the entire table. So maybe we don't want to say that all the data is from this source, which we know it's not. Only 2 columns are from it. So we can actually incorporate a classic footnote, the way that we're used to seeing like the numbers in the table or the paragraph of the writing. And so that we're going to call a footer. It's going to be a tab, footnote. I'm going to say it's a footnote. As you guys can see, this is like pretty easy to follow for the names of the functions, which I appreciate. 38. But then since it is a footnote, it's not applied to all the data. You're going to want to specify where you want the footnote to be. So you're going to do that with the locations column. And you're going to tell it what cell column labels they are. Labels, and then call to the columns that you want. And these are going to be variables. And so you're going to notice this kind of seems like a lot of writing and a lot of calls that you have to make, but most of the functions follow a very similar pattern. So once you kind of get the hang of it, you'll learn what GT wants you to tell it in order to figure out what you want to make. Oopsies. Okay, so it looks like. Okay, so you can see it's got this little 1 up here, and then now we're just specifying that only these 2 columns are from this source. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, I guess we can look at it to see. The next thing we're going to want to do is to mess around with the columns. So right now I'm just changing the framework and the structure of my data table before getting into it. And the columns are kind of the last thing I'm going to do. And there's a lot of different things that you can do to the columns and how to modify them and such like that. And I put the link to the RStudio GT info page for it here. And if you go to the references, it'll list every single function that you can use to modify columns. So you can make the size of them bigger. You can modify them to be left or the right. You can move them wherever you want. And basically anything you could think of to do with columns. And so we're just going to do some of them. So the first thing we're going to do is to move the columns around. This is super straightforward. I want because right now the survey, percent comes after the RLadies count. I think it'll make more sense, but survey counts, survey percent, RLadies counts, RLadies percent. I can't say the word. All right, so we're going to move columns. So this is going to be calls. Specify that you're talking about the columns. And I want to move survey percent after the column survey. Oopsies. I can't spell. There you go. You can see it worked like magic. All right, the next thing I want to do, I think that this is kind of wordy, you know, like we don't need survey counts and survey percents. So I want a banner over these 2 columns that's going to say, specify where this data came from, and also for RLadies. So we're going to make another spanner thing above here and above RLadies to be more descriptive and to make it prettier. So this is going to be a table spanner is the function that in GT, and you're going to have to specify first. Commit. There you go. Specify first what you want your label to be. So I'm just going to say 538, the data source. And then you have to tell it over which columns do you want this spanner to be. And again, variables, you have to specify which variables. Column variables. Survey counts. And I also want it over survey percent. Magic. There you go. Way prettier. And let's do the same thing for RLadies. So you can do it the same exact thing again. And I want my label to be ladies, SB. And I'm gonna want it over the columns where the variable names are our ladies count and our percent. Check. Awesome. And so now we're going to rename the columns. So right now they still have the original names from the data frame. And these are great names for managing a data frame. They don't have any spaces, they're all in the same case. They've got the underscore separating the words that I want, but it's kind of not very pretty for a table. And so what I'm going to do is rename them. And so this is also very easy. Renaming a column in a table is actually giving it a different label. You're not giving it technically a different name. So it's going to be calls label is the function for that. And I'm going to go and write out a new name for all of them. And I'm going to call all of the columns that have the word counts in it as counts. So you can actually give it the same name, which is important. This is why I was really specific about the distinction that you're not renaming the columns in the data frame, you're just giving it a new label. So these are going to be the new column labels, but when we call to the column variables later on in the table, in the making the table, you're still going to want to call the original variable. So let's say later I want to call survey counts. I'm not just going to say count, I'm still going to call it survey counts. GT knows that it's still this original variable name. And I think that that's what allows it, allows you to have the same label on your columns. It was very confusing at first. %, %, and I'm just going to capitalize this. I didn't find like a GT function. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So if somebody else knows better than me, please let me know. But I didn't find a GT function that will allow you to change all the case, all like uppercase or lowercase of your column labels. But you can do it in your data frame beforehand if you don't want to type it out like this. All right, so this is what it looks like. Beautiful. The skeleton of it looks great to me. It's a lot cleaner. And so now the next thing that we're going to want to do, oh, actually I want to align the rows because this whole mismatched row alignment is just not working for me aesthetically, which is really easy. There's 3 different ways. You can line them right, left, center, and right. And that's going to be called align, and I just want them all in the middle. It's the little things, guys. There you go. So that's what it looks like. So the next thing I want to do is fix this crazy trailing percent decimal places. GT is really great with this. There's a bunch of different functions to format the data that you have, and they all start with FMT. So again, you can go back and look at the reference link, and I'll send that to you guys separately also at the end of the meetup group thing. But you can format almost everything. So we're going to format percentages. You can do dates and times, scientific notation, currency. This one's really cool because it'll have the currency icon in the data table, and basically a lot of other things if you guys are interested. So we want to format the percent because it does not look good. Format percent. So you have to specify which columns you are interested in formatting. And here you're doing the variables, not the column labels. So survey percent, and we also want our percent. And we're going to tell it how many decimal points we want it to go to. Beautiful, so much better. Doesn't that look great? And right now it's getting really long-wise, and if you guys need a table that's more wide, you can do that with the column width, which I think I talked about or mentioned in the, all the different functions that you can use for columns. Cool. And so now Now we can get a little bit more nitpicky. It looks okay, but like we want it to look really good. So what I want to do next is, and what we're all going to do next is to organize the rows by percentage from decreasing from like the highest number to the lowest. So it's going to be decreasing from highest to low. So we're actually not going to do that directly in GT. We're going to do it in our data frame before we turn it into a GT object. So this was a good little reminder to me when I was trying to figure out how to do this, is that this is my data frame object, right? And so next call we're doing is kind of transforming it into a GT object, but you can do a bunch of dplyr type things in between these two. So I probably wouldn't recommend doing like all of your tidying and wrangling in this part before turning into a table. But little things like reordering your columns, that really kind of only affects your table that you're making. I think that it is very good and very handy. So in order to arrange that column, we're going to use the function arrange in the dplyr package, which loads automatically with tidyverse. It's going to be arrange, and we have to specify that we want descending survey percent. It's pretty stressful to type in front of people, guys. Oh my gosh. There we go. And now it is in the beautiful order. We can see pumpkin, apple, and pecan. Maybe not super surprisingly, fall out to the top. It's easy to see. Lemon meringue is last. Never heard of anybody eating lemon meringue for Thanksgiving, but that sounds really tasty. There's a lot of these. So yeah, it's a lot easier to read and prettier. I'm going to talk about colors next, but before, I'm talking very fast. Does anybody have any questions? I haven't looked in the chat window. Oh boy. Why change it now? Okay, so Sam and Anne have been good on it. Cool, thanks guys. All right, so colors. Colors is my favorite thing in the world to deal with for making figures. I think it makes a world of difference. And so I'm just gonna save in a couple colors that I really like using a hex code like this. You guys don't need to do this. You can use your ggplot colors directly. So that if you guys are familiar with ggplots, you're probably familiar with Googling ggplot colors and then coming up with that like crazy table with all the colors and all the weird names that they come with it. So you can use those directly. Just remember to put them in quotes. These are already in quotes because I'm saving them as vectors. But anyways, we're just going to use these colors and that'll be great. I do want to kind of remind everybody that, because I've seen some tables that do this incorrectly, to use colors only when it really highlights or helps get your message across with your data table, not just like big bold colors wherever you can. And I think that this package actually does a really good job of being able to highlight the things that you want to. And so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you can highlight the quantitative differences in your data. So I really want to highlight the big difference in the numbers, survey counts for each of them. So these are all in the same table, but like apple has 515 versus blueberry only has 5. Like that's a very big difference. So I really want to highlight that without just the percentages and such. And so we can do that really easily. And so to do that, we have to use the function data colors, not color datas. Data color. You're going to want to tell it what columns you want to add colors to. And let's just do it to both our ladies count. Yeah, our ladies counts and also the survey counts. But you have to tell it obviously what colors you want. And so we told it what the columns we want are, so now we have to fill out the colors call for. And we're going to use this package called Scales. It loads in with the tidyverse, and there is a function within there for specifying that the colors you're going to be using for the columns are they're going to be numeric, right? And so you want your table to know that they're numeric because you want it to be a gradient. So we have 3 colors, right? And I'm going to want my highest value, I think it's 730, to be blue, and then my lowest value to be orange. And then I want there to be a gradient between those 2 numbers, and whatever number my table lands on will be that color. And so this is how you do it. Within that, you have to specify what palette you're using. So I'm just going to say the colors. So this is where you can use any colors you want. I'm going to put 3 in. It's really nice. You can actually use Palantir if any of you guys are familiar with Palantir. It's a really great package that compiles all the color packages out there into one. You can use it directly into GT, but we're not going to do that this time. And then the last thing you have to do is specify your start and end points. So that's called domain. It's not like super intuitive to me, but it is what it is. And so let's check to see what the high and the low values are so we can set those. So I think the highest count is 730. Lowest count is 0 right here in ours. So we're going to set it from 0 to 730. Ooh, pretty. So this really makes it obvious that the 3 biggest pies are pumpkin, apple, and pecan. Since we called both columns for this, it scaled it accordingly to both of them. If we wanted it to be separate, we'd have to do 2 separate calls, and then the counts on the Our Ladies would be orange for 19, and then the gradient would probably be have a little bit more orange in it because the numbers are a lot closer than the other survey count, but it's still helpful, I think. Another thing you can do is highlight not the data numbers exactly for the colors, but highlight it by like a column variable type. So I want to highlight all the columns or rows, rows where the type is fruit. So like I want pumpkin, apple, cherry to all be like orange or tan or something. So you can be like, look at how many fruit pies there are compared to all the other types of pies in the world that there can be, which I think is a lot. We should take a survey about how many different types of pies there can be. All right. So for that, it's not really assigning colors based on your data exactly, like quantitative data. So it's going to be a call to the formatting the table. This is going to be table style is the call for this. And we want the style. Oh my gosh. Sorry guys, bear with me. To be cell fill. So you can actually use this to color. If you did cell color, it would be I think the color of the words in it. So if you didn't want to if you wanted to highlight it, but in a less aggressive way, you could do it that way. So I'm going to use the color orange, it's bright. And then you have to specify where these columns are that you're telling you want the style of it to be an orange fill. So it's going to be locations. And it's going to be the cells in the body of my data table. Let's see, body. When the rows equals type, which is the variable name for the column, equals fruit. I thought this was really weird that there's 2 equal signs in this, but that's how it works. And I'm not going to argue with something that works. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Oopsies. So we can see the distribution of the fruit pies. It's not like all the fruit pies are up at the top, the most popular. They're kind of spread out in there. All right, so we definitely have time. This is going pretty quickly, which is nice. The last thing I'm going to show you guys how to do is to create summary statistics for your data. So right now it's in all one giant clump. And so what I'm going to show you guys how to do is to separate it out by groups. So I'm going to separate it out by by types. So there'll be 3, I think. 4. There'll be 4. No, 3. I can't count. There'll be 3 groups. And then within each of those groups, I want to do summary stats. So I'm going to see how many total counts each of those groups have. And so in order to do that, you have to let your GT function needs to know what the groupings are. And there's 3 different ways that you can do that. You can do it in dplyr with group by. A lot of you guys might be familiar with that, but you have to do that in this kind of space before you convert it into a GT object. But it will carry through the information, like it will stay how it is as a data frame, like grouping wise and arranging the rows like we already did through the GT object. Or you can do a call kind of similar to like all these calls that we have here for table row group, specifying what group it is. Or you can do it directly in this GT initial GT call. There's actually a couple of things that you can do in here. And one of the things that I didn't tell you guys how to do is assign a row name for columns. So I'm just going to show you what that is before we do the grouping. Oopsies, flavor. So this is, oopsies. This is kind of more of a, can't find Thanksgiving pie. I find that difficult to believe. Anyways, so you can see that now it knows that this column is the like naming column of it. So the flavor goes away, but you can see that it's separated from it. So if that's something you want to do, you can definitely do it. And we're also going to assign our groupings here. So I'm going to say group equals type. I don't know why it wasn't working before. Let's see if it works now. Oopsies. Sorry, guys. Spell Thanksgiving pie wrong. I spelled Thanksgiving pie wrong. Cool. All right, so let's check out this grouping that we've done. Yeah, there you go. So you can see that it's all separated out. So let's say there was a tutorial I found that you did this with the Palmer Penguins data. So if you guys came to our data viz workshop, it was one of the variables was islands. So maybe you really want to separate out all this data by like where it is. For the type of pie, it doesn't make quite as much sense, but I wanted to show you guys that you can totally do it if you want to. So now we're going to add some summary stats to it. Super simple. So you definitely have to do the grouping first. I had initially tried to do this without grouping it, and I thought it was going crazy because it was telling me that I didn't have any data, which is crazy. I was like, it's right there. But by data, it means it didn't know like what the grouping variable data was. So for summary rows, where you have to specify what the columns are, and the variable names for the columns are survey counts. Let's also do hourly use counts. And you have to tell it what the function you want it to perform as. And so the call for this one here is FNS, which is different than normally in other packages and functions. It's fun. This is FNS because they're different. And you have to tell it what function you want within a list. This is kind of nice because you can, within your list, have as many different function calls as you want. So we're only going to do the sum, but you could do average or min or max or standard deviation, whatever you want. And you also have to tell it what you want the name of it to be in your table. So I'm going to do sum. And this is what it looks like. Let's see, we can see it all. Ta-da! It's beautiful. So this is what it is. And this is as far as we're going to go. So hopefully that was really helpful. There are a lot of other things that you can do that I didn't touch on, and you guys should totally explore more if you like this. I think this is a really good start. You can just take my code and sub in your data for it. And definitely go on that reference sheet that I shared with you guys, that I will share with you guys. Oh yeah, so another thing that you can do, there's a few things that you can do that are really cool. You can actually put emojis into it. It seems super simple. It's just like a simple, I think it's a markdown call too, but you can put like, I was so close to putting little pie icons in here, but I did not think that that was the main takeaway of the day. You can use Palantir. You can, there's a whole thing actually that we didn't go over for this stub thing. So this is the component of the table. So now you guys all know what everything is, which is awesome. Except we didn't really talk about stub head and stub. But I think it's fine because the way that you change those pieces and the calls within the function are very similar to the column stuff that we did. So I'm pretty confident that you guys will be able to figure it out. So you kind of know how to do everything for this table now. And you can make beautiful GT tables now. And if you do, please share them with me. I really want to see them. And that's it. If there's any questions. Silence. Cool. And I'll definitely, I'll send out a meetup follow-up email, and I'll have all the links to everything for you guys to use in the future in reference. Oh, I forgot this. You can also save it with a really good resolution. I was able to do this, but I had to do some weird troubleshooting. So if you guys are having issues with it, it's a GT save. It's similar to GG save. But for me to be able to get it to work, I had to download this WebShot package and run this line of code. So if you can't get it to work, hopefully this will help you guys. Yeah. And if you're really interested in leading a session, please send me an email. Yeah. The end. So if no one has any questions, we'll stay on for a little bit, but thanks for coming. I hope that I hope it was helpful and not too much coding. Just the right amount. Yeah, stop recording.